Hi folks, from the flight deck. We are enjoying a beautiful late September afternoon. I love September for flying because the air is starting to clear up after the hazy days of summer here in the southeast. The days are cooling off some, so it's not quite as blistering on the ground, although it's not cool today by any measure. The storms, yeah, we get some storms, but not a lot. We get views like that. Let you look around here a little bit. So, I thought I'd do a frequently asked questions segment today. I do answer those occasionally, but let's see if I can think of some questions that I've been asked about flying and clear up some misconceptions. I guess the easiest one is, well, what happens if you stall? Stalling in an airplane does not mean the same thing as stalling in a car. In a car, when you stall, the engine has quit working. And in an airplane, when you stall, the wing has quit working. Wings require airflow going over them. And so when that airflow no longer is going over them in the way it has to fly, to support lift, they quit lifting you and you fall out of the sky. Now this is usually recoverable depending on what kind of aircraft you're flying. So in an airplane, it's really not as big a deal to stall as you might think, just from the term. The old adage is maintain thine airspeed, lest the earth rise up and smite thee. There are a lot of good old adages that keep us in the air rather than on the ground when we don't intend to be. What's the most scared you've ever been in an airplane? Well, that goes back to a flight in a little airplane that was not equipped for instrument flying, where we found ourselves on top of a layer of cloud, and without the instruments needed to note where we were, much less descend safely through the cloud, without enough fuel to fly to where we knew there was no cloud. And to get out of it, we ended up seeing a hole and circling down through the hole and finding ourselves at the bottom of the hole in a box canyon. That's a canyon where a river coming off of a plateau has cut the canyon, and it's descending one direction and ascending the other. And we managed to roll out, pointed down the hill rather than up the hill, and just around the corner was an airport. And frankly, I got out of the airplane and kissed the ground. I was not pilot in command on that leg. A good friend of mine was, and I am forever thankful for his skills at getting us out of that. That was at the end of a really epic trip that I'll be writing about in a book someday. What's the farthest you've flown in an airplane? Well, that has several answers. The longest trip I have made, I think the longest trip would be one that I did along with my friend Oliver up to the Northwest Territories in a Cessna 150. I'd have to sit down and check the mileage to be sure that that is actually the longest trip. It may not be. It may be that the longest trip is a trip I took to Guyana in a Cessna 182, along with David Gates delivering an airplane down there. That may be the longest. And it could be that the longest was a trip. No, it wouldn't be to Haiti because Haiti wasn't that far. So I'd have to sit down and look at the numbers. Those are all, of course, multi-leg flights. Stop, get gas, go. Stop, get gas, go again. The longest single leg that I have flown, probably the flight between Durango, Colorado and our home airport in Northeast Tennessee. Although, of course, that was in this airplane, which carries 166 gallons and can fly for 7 hours without refueling. In the Mooney, the little airplane that we've had for 11 years, the longest would be a leg that I took from Durango, Colorado to Central Tennessee. Actually, it was just across the line in Kentucky, which was 900 plus nautical miles, and we landed with an hour of fuel remaining, and that airplane only carries 52 gallons of fuel. Now the trick on trips like that is you take off and you climb up to a good tailwind, and you throttle back and you sip fuel and you let the wind carry you there. There have been airplanes with 50-gallon fuel loads that got into jet stream conditions and were able to fly from California to Florida. I saw that written up one time on a Mooney M20E, which was a very interesting flight. They got up, got high, and enjoyed a good push. I have not done a trip like that. What's the highest you've flown? Well, the highest I've flown in an airplane that I've owned or been in piloting command of would have been 21,000 feet in this airplane, getting over a ridge of cloud in southwest Colorado, southeast Utah. And that was kind of epic. I was sucking on oxygen through a mask and really hoping the cloud was going to go away soon. It did, obviously. And so that was kind of cool. What's the shortest runway you've ever landed on? I don't know. It's hard to answer that one. I routinely in the Mooney land in 800 feet or so, but that's not a short field airplane, and now with other airplanes you can land in a fair bit shorter distance. In this airplane, this is a Beechcraft Baron, and to land in the Baron, you can get stopped in 1,400 to 1,600 feet in good conditions. I never do that. Never try to do that. Start on the brakes, start on the airplane. And if you have to do that, you've probably made a bad decision to get into that condition, into that situation. Weirdest runway I ever landed on was one time I landed on a solid ice runway, believe it or not, in Memphis last winter in the Mooney. It was probably the nicest landing I've ever made as far as smoothest. Got down to a walking speed and taxied in, and was using the flight controls the whole way in, making sure I didn't slide off the runway. What else? Dumbest thing I've ever done? We're not going to talk about that. If you got other questions about airplanes, send them my way. I'll be happy to answer them. It's fun to tell airplane stories. You know, they a lot of times include the phrase, and there I was, with hand gestures demonstrating the attitude of the airplane. You know, like Maverick and Top Gun, explaining international relations. I was inverted, ma'am. If you haven't watched the movie, you won't get it. If you have, I don't need to explain it to you. What else? Don't have a whole lot else right now. If you ever want to go flying with me, I really don't have time to give rides very often. When I do have time, I love to give rides. Love to take people up, introduce them to flying. If you get lucky and catch me on a time when I've got a flight with empty seats like this, I'll be happy to take you along if I'm able. A flight like today, I was at the airport at about 6 o'clock in the morning. Landed at my destination at about 2 hours later because of having to load the airplane and all that. An hour and a half later. And if you'd have come with me, you'd have had to sit around the airport until I got back. And then, of course, head leg back with me too. If you got the time, happy to take you along. I guess the other question is, what would you like to do with aviation? What would I like to do? I would love to live at a little airport where we introduce people to flying and make it possible, make it cheap, make it easy, and make it fun to get into flying. That's what I'd love to do. I'd also like to get my seaplane rating and start landing on water. And I plan to get my airline transport pilot license as soon as I actually have time to get the studying done and go do it. Who knows what I'll end up doing with that. Well, that's pretty much what I've got up my sleeve today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, and send me messages for things you'd like for me to talk about on any of my videos. And if I'm able, if I want to, and if I know anything about it, I will. All right. Y'all take care. See ya. I'll post this when I get on the ground.